So today I've got an interesting one. We've got a Mooney, it's an M20B, and he is getting a 300 RPM mag drop when he does his power check. So I've already done the high tension lead test, and all of them tested good, like you can see here. That's a good test. That means it's not shorting to ground because it's jumping across the points in the high tension lead tester. And before we go to pulling mags, just getting the harnesses off is bad enough. As you can see, this thing is absolutely buried. This is the Mooney back when they had the great idea that, oh, you could just, unbolt the top engine mounts and hinge the engine down on an engine hoist if you want to pull the magnetos, which is a horrible idea. So, I don't want to go pulling them and splitting them and looking for carbon tracking and all that fun stuff on the magnetos. So obviously, leads, then we check wires. Mags are last resort. And this aircraft has fine wire plugs. Big difference in aviation spark plugs. You're going to find the center massive electrode with a 2-conductor thing. That's the most typical you're going to find. These are a little oily and dirty because I just pulled them out. I haven't cleaned them. But this is a fine wire with iridium conductors, and there's a little iridium arm that is the one place it can ground to. And they supposedly run a little hotter. They're supposedly a little more powerful. I don't know. It's marketing. Who knows? But the good way to test them is with the compression tester that has a actual spark device inside of it. When you push the button, you get a high tension spark like that, which tickles a little if you touch it yourself. The box has the inverter built in right there. So we put them in, and if you look in the mirror that we have right here, clean that off a little, and you set your compression on your gauge. Now somebody put a label on here saying 70 to test fine wires. I don't know why that would be, because massive electrode they said to do 110. I think 110 probably for both, because figure what's the compression on the engine. But there is a good fine wire spark plug when it is functioning correctly at 110 psi firing. Interesting, if let's say we turn our pressure all the way off, spark actually isn't as powerful. It's not having to work as hard to go through the air because there's less, and air is an excellent insulator. So that's why when you turn the pressure up, get your pressure up to where it's supposed to be, and you hit this, it's much more brilliant because it's having to burn its way through many more molecules of air to make that arc. Now, let's go to our other plug, which has what I think is our problem. Again at 110. See how erratic and irregular that is? Something is not functioning correctly. It's dancing all around. It's fairly weak as well when we compare it to our first. Notice how bright that is. Look at how much it's lighting up that area. And then this one, it's weak, it's dancing. It's actually been getting better the longer I've done it. I've cleaned it with contact cleaner, and that irregularity still, I'm leaning towards that might be part of our mag drop, because it's even possible that inside of here it has created a gap. You look down inside, you've got your insulator, and then right down the middle there's like a copper core that actually carries your voltage, and the ceramic insulator has to keep the voltage from bleeding over to the steel shell. And if that steel shell is compromised, at any point inside that plug, let's say somebody dropped it or just vibration. I've even seen them literally blow the end right out of these. That's all it takes. It'll make a tiny little crack, and that tiny little crack, that's all electricity needs to start bleeding through where it's not supposed to go. And just for an example of a failure, there's a massive electrode one that the massive electrode blew out and disappeared. Found this on a turbocharged aircraft when it arrived after being ferried all the way from Africa. And you can see that center, it just blew out. Engine sounded interesting too, you should have seen. And the ceramic fractured, but so did the steel. I'm not sure what went first or when. And that busted nut and the lack of the end, that's what should be there. And it's not. In fact, you just have this B-nut screwed onto the end of the spark plug. We're missing all of this assembly, the cigarette, the spring. Some of that was still attached, but most of it had melted and burned from all the fire shooting through that little hole where the spark plug electrode should have been. But that's the worst failure I've ever seen, and I've only ever seen one like that, but it can happen. And most likely that did result from it, I don't know, being dropped or something like that, somehow being damaged, and maybe even the electricity arcing through found a weakness, because obviously we have a section of insulator that is missing from the inside of there, which possibly could have been. But yeah, plugs, they work a lot harder than you imagine, just conducting, because that's high voltages. I don't know, 10,000 volts or something crazy in those little sparks.